Picture this. You've got this, like, colossal wave just rising up out of nowhere. Sailors used to talk about them, right? Like myths. But now science has actually explained them. Or imagine a pill, just a small pill, that helps your brain literally heal itself after something like a stroke, actually regenerate tissue. The world is just constantly throwing these incredible, sometimes baffling developments at us, really reshaping what we thought was even possible. Okay, let's unpack some of this. Welcome to the deep dive. This is your shortcut to understanding the really important global news and insights that are happening right now. We sifted through a mountain of sources for you, everything from top science journals to major international news outlets. And we're here to pull out the crucial facts, the connections you need, sort of give you that aha moment, but, without the information overload. So our mission today: cut through the noise, give you the essential details. We want to offer diverse perspectives, help you connect the dots on what's truly shaping our planet right now. Whether you're trying to get caught up for a big meeting, or maybe you just want to expand your knowledge, or you're just driven by curiosity, well, this deep dive is really custom tailored for you. We're going from the furthest reaches of space, the frontiers of medical science, all the way to the intricate dance of global geopolitics, and even some surprising shifts in the economy. We're only covering the stories with real impact. So let's jump right in.
Okay, to kick things off, let's zoom out, like way out to the edges of our solar system and even beyond. We have some truly mind-bending news about an interstellar visitor. It was, for a while, one of the biggest mysteries in astronomy.
Indeed. We're talking about Oumuamua. Remember that one? It holds the distinction quite uniquely, being the first known interstellar object ever detected passing through our solar system. When it was first spotted, its shape was just weird, like a cigar, sort of. And more importantly, it had this inexplicable acceleration. Gravity alone couldn't account for it. It genuinely baffled scientists. Led to all sorts of wild speculation, didn't it? Even, suggestions of alien tech.
Oh, yeah, I remember the alien probe theories. Slight chuckle was everywhere for a bit. So a reclassification. It's not just some rogue asteroid or a typical comet then. What's the new thinking? The scientifically grounded take on this cosmic mystery.
Well, the latest study, published in sources like space.com, suggests something fascinating. They're proposing that Oumuamua is actually a fragment of an icy exoplanet. They're even tentatively calling this a new class of object, an exopluto.
Yeah.
The research team really dug deep into its unusual characteristics, that strange, elongated shape, the puzzling acceleration, its likely chemical makeup, its motion patterns, and they found that these characteristics align most closely with what you might expect from a body similar to Pluto, but crucially originating from outside our own solar system.
An exopluto, that's just wow. So the idea is it got, flung out of its home system, gravitationally booted out somehow. I mean, what does this tell us about planetary formation out there beyond our neighborhood?
Precisely. The leading theory is that it came from a distant solar system, probably got dislodged from its parent planet during some kind of chaotic gravitational shuffle. And then it embarked on this colossal journey through interstellar space, eventually just stumbling into our system. And this isn't just putting a new label on it. It fundamentally shifts our understanding of how planets form and evolve outside our own little bubble here.
Mm-hmm.
It strongly implies, really, that the galaxy might be teeming with vast numbers of these exoplutos or similar fragments just wandering through the void. It completely opens up the cosmic perspective. Suggests there's a whole new category of celestial traveler out there.
It's like finding a message in a bottle, but, from another star system. It really expands our universe in a whole new way. Poses such exciting questions about what else might be floating around out there. And speaking of incredible cosmic discoveries, the James Webb Space Telescope, the JWST, is giving us these just unprecedented looks at exoplanets.
Absolutely. The JWST, that's the National Aeronautics and Space Administration's flagship telescope, it's truly a marvel of engineering. It's letting us peer into the atmospheres of distant worlds in ways we couldn't before. Right now, it's making groundbreaking observations of a planet called TRAPPIST-1e. And this one is particularly exciting because it's roughly Earth-sized, and it's located squarely within its star's habitable zone, which means conditions could potentially support liquid water.
An Earth-sized planet in the habitable zone? Yeah, that's always the holy grail, isn't it, in the search for life beyond Earth. So what's Webb telling us about TRAPPIST-1e? Does it have an atmosphere? Is it Earth-like?
Well, the initial findings, based on Webb's powerful infrared instruments, they suggest that TRAPPIST-1e likely does not possess a thick primary atmosphere, like the kind Earth might have started with. This is probably because of the intense radiation from its host star. It's a red dwarf, and those can be pretty harsh, tripping away lighter atmospheric gases over billions of years. However, And this is the interesting part, the possibility of a secondary atmosphere. That remains an open and really exciting question. Maybe something replenished by, say, volcanic activity or outgassing from the planet's interior. Researchers are using these incredibly innovative and precise techniques, trying to differentiate the spectral signatures from this planet amidst its very closely packed neighbors. It's a monumental challenge, really, given the vast distances involved.
The precision needed. Just to analyze faint light from a planet so far away and figure out what its air is made of, it's truly cutting-edge science. This relentless hunt for life continues, doesn't it? And the JWST is just providing these views and data that are redefining our understanding of potentially habitable exoplanets. It's a testament to human ingenuity, really.
And moving from the incredibly distant cosmos to more immediate challenges. Right here on Earth, well, closer anyway, scientists have finally cracked a mystery that has, frankly, terrified sailors for centuries. Rogue waves, those colossal walls of water, once just dismissed as folklore, the stuff of panicked sailors' tales.
Right. Like sea monsters, but made of water. Slight chuckle.
Yeah.
But then we started getting actual proof, didn't we? Not just stories.
Exactly. The scientific community really started taking rogue waves seriously after January 1st, 1995. That's when an 80-foot wave slammed into the Draupner oil platform in the North Sea off the coast of Norway. It provided undeniable instrumental evidence, cold, hard data. And now, groundbreaking research by physicists has finally unveiled their secret. Turns out they're not some mythical, isolated force. They actually emerged from pretty commonplace oceanic behaviors, just that under very specific conditions.
So it's not a monster from the deep, but more like a perfect storm situation, where ordinary waves just gang up in a terrifying way. That's almost more unsettling than a myth, in a way.
A slight chuckle. It's certainly a different kind of monster, yeah. The research indicates these formidable waves arise through something called the impressive alignment of multiple waves and nonlinear stretching dynamics. Basically, yeah, it's a confluence of ordinary wave behaviors that, under precisely the right circumstances, a sort of perfect storm for wave mechanics, can create these towering phenomena. And this insight, it profoundly shifts how environmental scientists and oceanographers understand wave dynamics. We're moving from seeing them as these weird, anomalous events to understanding them as inherent mechanisms already present in sea conditions.
And the practical implications. I mean, for maritime safety, they must be huge. This knowledge has got to be crucial for navigation, right? For designing ships, oil platforms, any coastal structures in the rough seas. What was once this mysterious, unpredictable force of nature is now understood, and that offers the potential for safer ocean travel, safer infrastructure, especially important in a world where climate change might be making oceanic conditions even more extreme, makes this knowledge even more vital.
Okay, from cracking nature's mysteries on the high seas, let's now plunge into the rapid evolution of technology, starting with the future of how we get around our cities. Uber is making a big strategic move into autonomous mobility. In Germany, no less.
Yes, Uber's announced a really significant partnership with Momenta. They're a prominent Chinese autonomous vehicle technology firm, and the goal is ambitious, launching robotaxis in Germany by early 2026. This isn't just a small trial, it really marks a pivotal development in Uber's global strategy for autonomous vehicles. So, self-driving Ubers, hitting the streets in Germany by 2026. Wow. Will there be, safety operators in the cars at first? Or are they going straight to fully driverless? Because, let's be honest, some people still get a bit nervous about a car driving itself. Slight chuckle.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. And yes, initially, the trips will include safety operators in the vehicles. That's to ensure passenger safety. And also, importantly, regulatory compliance. Can't skip that. The partnership aims to harness Momenta's advanced artificial intelligence AI algorithms and their high-definition mapping capabilities. Those are absolutely essential for navigating complex urban environments, especially somewhere like Berlin or Munich. And this venture, it lines up with a broader trend we're seeing expanding autonomous vehicle trials across Europe, where the regulatory frameworks are actually becoming increasingly favorable.
What's really fascinating here is the collaboration, right? You've got Chinese AI tech being deployed in German cities by an American giant like Uber. This could truly reshape how Uber operates in Europe, maybe make it more efficient, potentially bring costs down for users eventually. It just shows how the future of urban transport is arriving fast, driven by these global collaborations, promises to transform how we all move around cities.
And that vision, leveraging technology to transform daily life, it extends way beyond just transportation, right into how we work. Artificial intelligence is making huge strides there, too.
Oh, good, because my inbox could definitely use an AI assistant right about now. Chuckle. Yeah. Tell me about this Microsoft Office of AI agents. Sounds intriguing.
Chuckle. Yeah, me both. Well, there's this ambitious startup called Motion. They're backed by the prestigious Y Combinator incubator. They recently secured a hefty $38 million in funding, and their goal, to develop an advanced project management system powered by AI. It was founded by a former hedge fund manager, Harry Chi. And Motion aims to automate those, burdensome processes, task planning, project coordination, the stuff that often bogs down team performance. These new funds are going to be crucial for expanding their engineering team and really pushing product development forward.
So the idea is to free us up from all that administrative busy work. Let us focus on actually getting things done. I definitely like the sound of that, especially now, right? With so much remote work and reliance on digital tools, Motion sounds like it could be a potential game changer. Streamlining workflows, cutting down on human error, using intelligent solutions that adapt to how teams actually work. It really promises to free us from those admin tasks, let businesses focus on execution instead of getting lost in the weeds of management overhead.
Now, switching gears a bit, from innovative new players like Motion to established giants facing scrutiny, we're seeing this increasing focus on tech monopolies, and Google finds itself in the spotlight. Again,
Yes, PubMatic, they're a leading advertising technology company. They filed a pretty significant lawsuit against Google, haven't they? Alleging monopoly violations. Seems like we hear this story quite a bit with Google and antitrust issues.
it is a recurring theme, but this lawsuit is particularly notable. It's the second instance of an advertising exchange challenging Google since a federal court ruling back in April actually confirmed that Google had illegally monopolized ad exchanges and servers. PubMatic's suit is seeking billions in damages. They argue that Google's dominance stifles competition, hurts the financial viability of smaller ad tech firms. PubMatic's software, just for context, helps publishers maximize their ad revenue and connects them with advertisers while trying to prioritize user privacy. So this legal action, it's really set against this growing consensus among regulators, among industry players, that Google's market position creates unfair barriers. It prevents competition, stifles innovation. It lines up with these broader antitrust enforcement trends we're seeing globally.
Sounds like a really crucial battle for fairness in the digital advertising world, right? Could have long-lasting implications for how online ads are bought and sold, which impacts businesses trying to reach you, the consumer, and ultimately the overall internet experience for all of us.
And finally, in the realm of connectivity, Elon Musk's SpaceX has made a truly monumental move for its Starlink satellite internet service.
Yes, I heard about this. A massive deal, right? They finalized an agreement to acquire 50 megahertz of wireless spectrum and mobile satellite service licenses from EchoStar for around $17 billion. That's a staggering amount. And not just cash either.
It is indeed a monumental investment, and structured uniquely, too, roughly $8.5 billion in cash and an equivalent amount in SpaceX stock, which really reflects strong confidence both internally and from EchoStar in Starlink's future growth and market potential. This acquisition is particularly significant because it strategically positions SpaceX's Starlink satellite network to launch a groundbreaking direct-to-phone service. Think about that. It could potentially bypass traditional mobile networks entirely, offering connectivity in places where cell towers just don't exist or don't reach.
Wow. So your phone connecting directly to satellites? No cell towers needed? That still sounds pretty futuristic. This deal feels like a huge step towards making that kind of pervasive, seamless connectivity a widespread reality, especially for people in remote areas or maybe during natural disasters when ground infrastructure goes down.
It's absolutely a crucial milestone for SpaceX. It enhances their capability to provide high-speed internet through the Starlink constellation, which, by the way, already boasts over 5 million subscribers globally. This strategic move could genuinely redefine connectivity across the planet, directly addressing the digital divide we always talk about. And it also helps EchoStar. They were actually under scrutiny by the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, for underused assets. So this lets them focus on their core operations while giving a massive boost to Starlink's ambitions.
Okay, now let's turn our attention to the complex and often turbulent world of geopolitics. We really have to start with the enduring conflict in Ukraine, which unfortunately saw a major escalation recently.
Indeed. Ukraine faced what's being described as Russia's largest aerial assault since the full-scale invasion began back in 2022. Reports indicate over 800 drones were deployed in a coordinated attack really aimed at overwhelming Ukrainian air defense systems. And tragically, for the first time, a government building in the capital, Kyiv, was directly struck.
The human cost.
Yeah.
It's just devastating, as always. I saw reports from the UN a baby and mother were among the casualties in Kyiv, and at least 44 other people injured across various regions: Chernihiv, Kharkiv, Odessa in Ukraine. Just awful.
Yes, and civilian infrastructure, too. An apartment building, even a kindergarten, were targeted. The UN Humanitarian Coordinator for Ukraine, Matthias Schmeil, and UNICEF both expressed deep concern. They condemned the attacks, emphasizing again that civilians and civilian infrastructure are protected under international humanitarian law. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky criticized these attacks, calling them a deliberate attempt to prolong the conflict. A crime, he said, that complicates any peacemaking efforts. Analysts tend to suggest this operation aims to instill panic, destabilize Ukrainian cities. It seems to align with President Vladimir Putin's strategy of exerting psychological pressure.
It's truly devastating, and it makes any calls for peace that much harder, doesn't it? Speaking of peace, there are some very complex and frankly politically charged diplomatic maneuvers underway right now.
Very complex, yes. U.S. President Donald Trump has announced plans for a new round of talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin, specifically focusing on resolving the conflict. President Trump expressed optimism about achieving a resolution. And interestingly, he seems to have shifted from pressing for an immediate ceasefire to now advocating for a, quote, broader peace deal. You might recall previous discussions happened in Alaska, in the United States, back in August. They were deemed productive at the time, but ultimately yielded no formal agreements.
But President Zelensky, he doesn't seem too thrilled about these talks, does he? He accused Putin of playing games, engaging with President Trump while pointedly avoiding direct conversations with Ukraine itself. Zelensky believes Putin's ambitions are still to occupy all of Ukraine. He asserted that, for Ukraine, survival equates to victory. That's a pretty stark position.
It is. And this is where the diplomatic landscape gets really interesting and quite contentious. In a move that definitely raised eyebrows internationally, President Zelensky actually endorsed President Trump's decision to impose 25% penal tariffs on India for India's purchase of Russian oil. Zelensky argued, quote, additional pressure on Putin is necessary, and that countries continuing to trade with Russia should face consequences. This really highlights the, perhaps, desperate measures Ukraine feels it needs to take to influence global opinion and pressure Russia economically, even if it means potentially alienating a major player like India.
That's a bold move, yeah. Considering India's significant role in the global economy and its traditionally independent foreign policy, it really underscores these multi-layered diplomatic efforts. The tensions surrounding the war reveals these vastly different visions for what peace and stability even look like.
Now, shifting to another deeply troubled region, the Middle East continues to see escalating violence, particularly in Gaza and Jerusalem.
The reports coming out have just been heartbreaking. Israeli forces intensifying their bombing campaign across Gaza City. Significant casualties, destruction. Reports indicating at least 15 to 19 people confirmed dead recently. Residential towers targeted. Hundreds of Palestinians forced to flee again. And this conflict, as we know, it has such deep, complex roots, tied to this long history of territorial disputes, political disagreement, deep-seated grievances on all sides.
And the violence isn't just contained to Gaza. We also saw that deadly shooting attack at a bus stop in Jerusalem. That incident left at least 5 to 6 people dead, including an ultra-Orthodox soldier and 11 others injured. 2 Palestinian gunmen, apparently attackers from the West Bank, were killed by Israeli police. Now, this attack followed a series of similar incidents recently, just escalating tensions in an already incredibly volatile region. The continuous bombardment in Gaza, it's just heightened fears among civilians. Over 64,000 reported casualties in Gaza alone now, medical facilities completely overwhelmed.
Amidst all this violence, though, there are still these fragile glimmers of hope for ceasefire efforts, diplomatic maneuvers. What's the latest on that front?
Well, U.S. President Donald Trump hinted at and then issued what he called a last warning to Hamas. He stated publicly that, quote, the Israelis had accepted his terms for a ceasefire proposal, aimed at halting hostilities, encouraging dialogue. He threatened unspecified consequences if Hamas refused to comply, and specifically called for the release of Israeli hostages. In response, Hamas indicated a willingness to negotiate after receiving these proposals from the American side. So there's movement, at least. Internationally, it's complex. Spain strongly dismissed Israeli accusations of anti-Semitism as unfounded and slanderous. This followed Spain's prime minister introducing new measures aimed at Israel amidst the conflict. And the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, also raised alarms about the glorification of violence and the systematic erosion of human rights in Gaza.
Such fragile hopes for peace, right? Amidst just relentless violence, the complexities of international diplomacy, these urgent calls for humanitarian aid, for accountability, it's a truly difficult situation to watch, let alone solve.
Moving across to Asia now, we see a continued high-stakes geopolitical dance. particularly around the Taiwan Strait.
Right. The Chinese military recently condemned the transit of Canadian and Australian warships, the HMCS Ville de Bec and HMAS Brisbane, through the Taiwan Strait. They labeled it a provocation. China, of course, views self-governing Taiwan as part of its territory under its One China principle, and claims the strait itself as its own internal waterway.
And that's precisely where the international legal interpretation differs significantly. While Canada and Australia don't formally recognize Taiwan as a sovereign state, many countries, including the United States, view the strait as an international waterway. And they regularly conduct these transits, freedom of navigation operations, or EVONOPs, to assert that right. The Australian Defence Department, for instance, specifically stressed the importance of this right of passage after this incident. And this passage happened shortly after recent Chinese military drills in the South China Sea, which Beijing also denounced as provocations. The Taiwan Strait is just one of the busiest shipping routes globally, which highlights its critical strategic importance not just regionally but for global trade too.
So it's this constant push and pull, isn't it? Asserting international rights versus China's territorial claims makes it such a critical strategic flashpoint in East Asia, with global implications for trade, for security.
Indeed. And amidst these tensions, India is playing a really fascinating strategic balancing act, particularly concerning its relationships with Russia, China, and also dealing with U.S. tariff pressures.
India's finance minister, Nirmala Sitharaman, she's been quite clear, hasn't she? Asserting that India's oil purchases are driven by its economic priorities. She confirmed the country will undoubtedly keep buying Russian oil, which apparently accounts for nearly 40% of its crude imports now, because of the favorable rates offered since the conflict in Ukraine started.
And what's more, Indian refiners are actively buying this discounted Russian crude, refining it, and then exporting the refined fuels, sometimes ironically, back to Europe, creating this interesting economic loop. Now, the stance comes amidst what's described as heightened tensions with the U.S., which, as we mentioned, has imposed substantial tariffs on Indian products, including that 25% penalty specifically for buying Russian oil. U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick suggested India might eventually give in to U.S. pressure, but India's actions so far suggest they're holding firm.
So India's really caught in the middle here between economic necessity, getting cheap energy, and significant pressure from the U.S. But they're not just leaning entirely on Russia, are they? Sounds like they're trying to play the field, so to speak.
Exactly. India is strategically redefining its foreign policy, as analysts put it. They're visibly engaging with both Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russian President Vladimir Putin, for example, at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO summit. Experts describe India's approach using terms like multi-alignment and strategic autonomy, basically trying to mend ties with Beijing while also maintaining robust energy and defense links with Russia, despite Western criticism. And simultaneously, India and the European Union, EU, are intensifying negotiations on a free trade agreement. European officials are heading to New Delhi to tackle tricky issues like rules of origin and market access.
It's truly India's complex geopolitical tightrope walk, navigating economic needs, national interests, these shifting global alliances, all while facing competing pressures from the major world powers. It's a masterclass in strategic diplomacy, if nothing else. Watching how they manage it is fascinating.
Turning back to Europe now, there's a significant debate happening about the European Union's fundamental identity, its future. Some pretty stark warnings being issued.
Yeah, Joseph Borrell, the former top diplomat of the EU, he issued a very strong warning, didn't he? Suggesting the EU risks becoming a vassal state to the U.S. under President Donald Trump's presidency. Vassal state? I mean, that's incredibly strong language for a former top diplomat. What are his core concerns driving that?
He was indeed very direct. Borrell criticized what he sees as the EU's fragmented and weak position, especially after making, in his view, significant concessions to the U.S. on defense spending and trade. He pointed specifically to U.S. tariffs on EU exports and the persistent pressure on North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO members, to significantly increase military spending. He views these as eroding European autonomy. And then you have Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban echoing concerns, though maybe from a different angle. He suggests the bloc might not survive past the next decade without major reform and a resolution to the Ukraine conflict. He criticized the EU for failing to become a true global power, described its current state as chaotic and costly disintegration. He even proposed restructuring the EU into concentric circles to manage internal divisions.
Wow. So you've got the former top diplomat worried about outside influence and a sitting prime minister worried about internal collapse. And former Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi also called for reforms, right, to ensure EU resilience against these great power dynamics. These sound like really fundamental debates about the European Union's future, its autonomy, its economic and geopolitical standing, its ability to act independently on the world stage. Feels like a real crossroads moment for Europe.
Absolutely, these discussions are hitting at the very core of the Union. And speaking of pivotal moments and challenges, let's look at the ongoing domestic political landscape for U.S. President Donald Trump, which continues to capture headlines daily.
The president seems to be facing this relentless barrage of legal battles unfolding on multiple fronts, alongside these ongoing debates about the reach of executive authority. What's the latest there?
Well, in a significant ruling, the Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals unanimously upheld that $83.3 million verdict against President Trump. This relates to his defamatory statements about E. Jean Carroll, who accused him of rape years ago. And crucially, the court dismissed Trump's appeal based on presidential immunity, reinforcing legal accountability for public figures, even sitting presidents for actions taken before or outside their official duties. On a separate note, but related to executive power, Chief Justice John Roberts allowed President Trump to proceed with removing a member of the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, Commissioner Rebecca Slaughter. This was a temporary Supreme Court ruling siding with the Trump administration, and it overturned lower court decisions that had reinstated Slaughter. It's seen by some as part of a larger pattern of high-profile dismissals within the administration, raising questions about the balance of power between the executive branch and independent agencies.
It seems like the courts are constantly busy navigating these boundaries of presidential power. I also heard a pretty controversial statement from House Speaker Mike Johnson recently, something about the Jeffrey Epstein case linking President Trump.
Yes, that caused quite a stir. House Speaker Mike Johnson publicly identified President Trump as an FBI informant related to the Jeffrey Epstein trafficking case. This was a highly controversial revelation, sparking considerable debate. Critics argue it could have serious political ramifications for Trump and the Republican Party. Johnson's subsequent attempts to clarify his comments were met with, let's say, skepticism. It highlights the extreme sensitivity and political charge surrounding anything related to Epstein. All these events contribute to what polls show as a varied landscape across the states for President Trump's approval ratings as of September 2025. They're significantly influenced by recent events, including the administration's handling of the Epstein case discussion. It's truly a relentless cascade of legal and political challenges facing the current U.S. president, alongside these ongoing debates about executive power and the complex internal dynamics of American governance right now. #5E. Economic realities and market dynamics.
Okay, let's transition now over to the global economy and market dynamics. We're seeing some, maybe, optimism-lifting markets, largely driven by expectations around potential interest rate cuts from the Federal Reserve in the U.S.
Stock futures are indeed showing a positive trend as the trading week kicks off. Traders are keenly watching for important inflation data that's due out soon. Market sentiment does appear optimistic, yeah, with many traders seemingly anticipating a stable path for interest rates. Perhaps looking past immediate inflation worries in favor of potential future cuts by the Fed, significant attention is focused on the upcoming inflation reports from the U.S. Department of Labor, especially with the Federal Reserve's September meeting looming, also influencing dynamics. The recent decision by OPEC+, that's the organization of the petroleum exporting countries, plus Russia and others to increase oil output. That offers some potential relief on energy costs, which feeds into inflation figures.
So investors are largely taking a wait-and-see approach, but maybe with a hopeful eye towards the Fed's next moves. It really shows how sensitive global markets are to signals from central banks, to key economic reports, and what those signals might mean for your investments, whether it's individual stocks or broader retirement funds.
Absolutely. And speaking of investments in tech, in the realm of groundbreaking tech and these rapidly rising valuations, one company is experiencing truly meteoric growth. Databricks, yeah, the data and artificial intelligence company. Based in San Francisco, California, they recently confirmed a staggering valuation over $100 billion after a $1 billion investment in their Series K funding round. That's just months after a previous $10 billion round had already pushed their valuation up to $62 billion. It seems like they're just printing money over there. Chuckle. It certainly looks that way from the outside. The firm is known for its pioneering tech in data lakehouse architecture, its strong support for machine learning and AI. They've just seen this exponential surge in demand, driven by the skyrocketing interest in AI solutions across basically every industry you can think of. Databricks recently announced a revenue run rate of $4 billion. which is a huge testament to their market penetration and how useful their products are. The new funds from this latest round, they'll be strategically allocated product innovation, expanding infrastructure, deepening investment in generative AI, really aiming to stay ahead in this incredibly competitive space.
It's just fascinating to witness the incredible pace of growth, the investment pouring into AI and data technology, and how one company like Databricks is really leading the charge in shaping the future of these critical fields. For investors, certainly Databricks represents a major player in this ongoing AI revolution.
Now, shifting from those heady valuations to a more grounded yet critical economic reality, something affecting many people directly, the housing market. We're seeing a significant slowdown there.
Yeah, reports talk about a shortage of home buyers, forcing many sellers to either adjust their asking prices downwards or, in some cases, just pull their homes off the market entirely. That's tough news for anyone looking to sell right now, and it reflects broader economic unease, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. The slowdown seems to be driven by a mix of factors. Persistent economic uncertainty, for one, those stubbornly high mortgage rates, making borrowing much more expensive than it was a couple of years ago. And lingering concerns about the job market outlook, these factors have left potential buyers hesitant, leading to a noticeable drop in demand. Now, while the national median home listing price saw a nominal increase in July, specific metropolitan areas across the United States are reporting declines. It indicates this changing dynamic where buyers now hold more negotiating power and the pressure on sellers. It's expected to probably escalate as competition intensifies and homes sit on the market longer without finding a buyer quickly.
Yeah, this has really practical impacts for homeowners, for aspiring buyers, reflects that broader economic uncertainty. A changing real estate landscape where maybe patience and perhaps a bit of bargaining skill might pay off for buyers now.
And on a more, poignant note, we have a story from Oklahoma in the United States that really reminds us of the very real financial struggles some retirees are facing in today's economy.
This story is truly heartbreaking. Vince Sedone, he's 90 years old, and he's still working part-time at a convenience store in Oklahoma. Not because he wants to, but because of sheer financial necessity. His pension, which started way back in 1998, hasn't increased at all since then. Meanwhile, his expenses have mounted, now totaling $7,000 a month. And Vince himself, he earns $14.90 an hour. I mean, that barely covers a fraction of his needs.
It's a stark reality, unfortunately, for too many. Vince's situation reflects these broader issues about the adequacy of pensions of Social Security for older Americans. The relentless rise in the cost of living, coupled with the stagnation of fixed-income pensions. It poses huge challenges. It forces many elderly individuals, people who really should be enjoying their retirement, to seek employment long past traditional retirement age, just to try and make ends meet. It's just a poignant, real-world reminder of the struggles against financial instability that some retirees endure. Underscores the pressing need, perhaps, for stronger social safety nets, and definitely for proactive retirement planning from a younger age.
From those individual financial struggles, let's look at global economic alliances now. We're seeing smaller nations actively seeking new global ties, trying to navigate these complex trade landscapes.
Exactly. Laotian Prime Minister Sonexay Siphandon recently expressed his nation's strong desire to join both the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO, and BRICS. That's the bloc, including Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and its newer members. Laos has actually already been granted dialogue partner status within the SCO, so this indicates a clear strategic direction for them.
That's a significant move for Laos. What's really driving their push for these new global partnerships? Is it purely economic?
It seems largely driven by economics, yes. Laos aims to enhance its economic partnerships, open up new trade routes, and this is seen particularly as a direct response to recent high tariffs imposed by the United States on Laotian exports. Prime Minister Siphandon views BRICS in particular as a vital platform for global trade, and he's advocating for a transition towards a multipolar world, one that supports multilateral cooperation over, unilateral actions by superpowers. It's a really clear example of how smaller nations are actively looking for new economic alliances, trying to counter unilateral pressures and promote what they see as fairer, freer economic cooperation in this changing global order. #TAG-V, Health Breakthroughs and Wellness Insights.
Okay, let's turn our attention now to some truly exciting advancements in health and wellness. This is often the most hopeful part of our deep dive. First up, the potential for brain healing, with novel psychiatric tools that honestly sound like they're straight out of science fiction.
Recent studies are indeed exploring some really innovative psychiatric tools. Particularly, there's buzz around a new pill, one designed specifically to stimulate regeneration following brain injuries, such as strokes. This groundbreaking research, highlighted in sources like the New York Times, has definitely garnered significant attention within the neuroscience community.
A pill that helps your brain regenerate after a stroke. That sounds revolutionary. Moving beyond just managing symptoms to actually repairing the damage.
It is genuinely revolutionary in concept, yes. By potentially enabling the brain to recover more effectively from injury, this pill could open up entirely new avenues for treatment. Things that were previously thought limited or maybe impossible without highly invasive procedures. This breakthrough, if it pans out in further trials, could lead to substantial changes in how brain injuries are managed. It offers immense hope to countless individuals dealing with the often devastating aftermath of events like stroke. And it could pave the way for more effective healing strategies in both psychiatry and neurology. It really is a potential revolution in neurological and psychiatric treatment. Offers a glimpse into a future where the brain's own natural healing abilities might be significantly enhanced and directed. And in related research, Stanford University out in California, United States, has made a truly groundbreaking discovery, reversing autism-like symptoms in mice.
That's incredible. What specific brain mechanism did they actually target? Because, understanding the underlying biology is so key here, not just masking the symptoms.
That's precisely the point of this study. The researchers successfully reversed autism-like symptoms in these mice by targeting and then suppressing overactivity in a specific brain region. It's called the reticular thalamic nucleus, or RTN. This area has been implicated in regulating behaviors associated with autism spectrum disorder, ASD. By using both drugs and neuromodulation techniques, the Stanford team was able to normalize the RTN's function, and that led to a significant reversal of symptoms like hyperactivity and social deficits in the mice models they were using.
So it's not just a broad intervention, it's a very focused approach, targeting a specific neural pathway. What are the broader implications of this, particularly for understanding and maybe one day treating autism in humans?
This study is incredibly significant because it doesn't just advance our understanding of the neurobiological basis of autism, it also highlights a novel therapeutic target. And what's really fascinating is that this RTN overactivity, it also seems to overlap with mechanisms seen in some epilepsy treatments, which suggests potential cross-applications, maybe faster development pathways. This study really underscores the intricate relationship between autism and other neurodevelopmental pathways. It's pushing the boundaries of our existing knowledge, and it offers substantial hope for future treatment strategies for improved management of ASD. It's truly a groundbreaking step, showing how focused brain research can lead to these potentially revolutionary therapeutic avenues. Finally, in health, let's rethink some common conditions. There's groundbreaking new research, this time from Finland and the United Kingdom. It suggests heart attacks might have a surprisingly infectious origin, really challenging our traditional understanding.
Wait. Heart attacks caused by infection. I thought it was all about diet, cholesterol, genetics, lifestyle. This sounds like a complete paradigm shift.
It absolutely could be. This research suggests they might be primarily caused by infectious processes, not solely those traditional risk factors we always hear about, like high cholesterol. The study demonstrated that dormant bacterial biofilms, you can think of them as communities of bacteria encased in this protective slime matrix, can exist within arterial plaques for decades. And these biofilms, they remain kind of hidden from the immune system, unresponsive, until they get activated by some external trigger, like maybe a viral infection elsewhere in the body. This activation leads to inflammation, the plaque rupturing, and then the arterial blockages that ultimately precipitate heart attacks. And what's particularly compelling is the connection they found to oral health. These bacterial colonies, they're often found in cases of periodontitis, that's severe gum disease. And they can eventually migrate and colonize arterial walls, initiating these inflammatory responses that contribute to atherosclerosis, the hardening of the arteries.
So the health of your mouth could literally be connected to your heart in a much more direct and potentially dangerous way than we previously understood. This discovery could open up entirely new avenues for treatment then.
Exactly. This finding could open up completely new approaches, including potentially vaccines aimed at preventing the bacterial activation or maybe reducing the impact of these infections on cardiovascular health overall. It really highlights the urgent need to evaluate the microbial dimensions of cardiovascular conditions and maybe integrate better oral health control much more seriously into heart disease prevention strategies. It's potentially a paradigm shift in how we understand and prevent heart disease, suggesting, that the health of your mouth might be far more connected to your heart than you ever imagined, leading to some very practical prevention strategies down the line. Hashtag Zraya, justice, safety, and societal impact.
Okay, let's shift our focus now to justice, safety, and their profound societal impact. starting with some high-profile crime and accountability cases from around the world. These can be tough, but important to understand.
First, in Australia, a truly shocking and captivating case reached its conclusion. Erin Patterson, a 50-year-old woman, was sentenced to life imprisonment with a non-parole period of 33 years. This was for the murder of 3 people using toxic mushrooms and the attempted murder of another family member. The trial absolutely captivated international attention.
3 murders by toxic mushrooms. That's just incredibly chilling and devious. This case really delves into the dark side of domestic relationships, doesn't it? And the profound legal, the emotional consequences of such a calculated act. The court proceedings apparently revealed a family history marked by tension, distrust, and the lone survivor, Ian Wilkinson, made this really heartfelt plea for privacy and kindness after the verdict. Just a tragic story all around.
Moving to a different but equally tragic kind of case, in the United Kingdom, a former sergeant major in the military, Michael Weber, has pleaded guilty to sexually assaulting a teenage soldier, Jaisley Beck. Jaisley tragically took her own life following the incident.
This case has shown a much-needed harsh light on the severe consequences of such actions within the military community, bringing to light these critical issues around mental health, the treatment of sexual assault victims, especially in environments where the stigma against reporting can be incredibly significant. It feels like a systemic problem.
It absolutely is often framed that way. Beck's family and advocates are now powerfully urging for justice, yes, but also for greater accountability for perpetrators. And crucially, for the implementation of more robust systemic changes within military operations, including things like enhanced psychological support for service members. It's just a tragic story that really underscores the urgent need for reform, for better protection for service members, highlights the profound impact of sexual violence, and the persistent challenges of achieving accountability within these often closed institutions.
Finally, on a broader global scale, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, issued a really powerful and comprehensive address recently. He denounced what he called a global trend, the glorification of violence and the systematic erosion of human rights and the rule of law. Strong words from the UN's top rights official.
Turk's address was indeed forceful and wide-ranging. He pointed to pervasive pro-war propaganda in various conflicts around the world, the severe erosion of women's rights, particularly in Afghanistan, plummeting law and order in Haiti, the ongoing humanitarian disaster in Gaza, the intensifying conflict in Ukraine, the catastrophic human rights situation in Myanmar. He covered a lot of ground, and he didn't shy away from criticizing major powers either, including the United States, condemning decisions he felt undermined global cooperation, like withdrawing from the Paris Agreement on climate change and specific practices violating the rights of vulnerable communities. Turk urged all nations to respond assertively, to recommit to international norms, uphold multilateral agreements, safeguard human rights globally, and he cautioned strongly against the dangerous normalization of violence that seems to be creeping into discourse worldwide.
That's a really powerful, comprehensive call to action, isn't it, on the global state of human rights, urging every nation, really every individual, to consider their role in upholding dignity and preventing this normalization of violence. It's a stark reminder of the challenges we face as a global society. #duration, climate, environment, and natural disasters. Let's shift our focus now back to our planet, which is seeing some direct and, frankly, alarming impacts of climate change, bringing the issue right to people's doorsteps, quite literally. For example, Swiss villages are currently being threatened by melting glaciers.
Yes, glaciers in Switzerland are melting at what experts call an alarming rate, posing significant immediate risks to nearby villages down in the valleys. A recent incident back in May really brought this issue into sharp focus. A glacier collapse resulted in a catastrophic landslide that tragically buried parts of the Swiss village of Blatten. This event has dramatically heightened awareness of the immediate tangible threats posed by climate change and glacial retreat, not just to local populations, but to the entire ecosystem and the water supply for millions downstream. Communities in these regions are now being urged to prepare for potential evacuations, for major infrastructural changes, as the warming climate leads to accelerated melting and increased instability in the mountains.
That's just such a vivid, immediate illustration, isn't it, of how climate change is directly impacting communities right now, demanding urgent action, adaptation strategies. It's clearly no longer some distant threat. It's a present danger for many.
Another fascinating environmental discussion involves that complex balance between developing renewable energy infrastructure, which we need, and protecting vulnerable wildlife populations.
You're talking about the whimbrel, right? That shorebird that migrates along the Atlantic flyway on the U.S. East Coast, and the offshore wind turbines being constructed by Dominion Energy off the coast of Virginia in the United States. There are legitimate concerns about potential hazards for these birds during their long migration.
Absolutely. This specific wind project aims to produce 2.6 gigawatts of electricity. That's a significant contribution to renewable energy goals. However, the potential impact on wildlife just cannot be ignored. There's ongoing research, actually funded by Dominion Energy itself and conducted by the Nature Conservancy and the William and Mary Center for Conservation Biology. They're meticulously monitoring the whimbrel's flight patterns using GPS trackers. Now, despite 42% of the tracked whimbrels crossing the designated wind energy area, the good news is there have been no recorded bird fatalities so far. Researchers are observing that while some birds do use habitats near the shore, others seem to be actively navigating around the offshore project area, suggesting some level of adaptation or avoidance behavior. The study uses advanced tracking technology to really assess whether these birds can truly coexist with this massive wind farm infrastructure, particularly concerning the rotor swept zone, which poses the main collision risk.
It's such a critical intersection, isn't it? Climate action versus conservation. How do we build the green energy infrastructure we absolutely need without inadvertently harming vulnerable wildlife populations in the process? It's a complex balance to strike. And this kind of research is vital for trying to find that sweet spot, that path forward.
Now, turning to extreme weather events, Typhoon Tapa recently made landfall in southern China, prompting mass evacuations and causing widespread disruption.
This typhoon, Tapa, it was classified as the 16th typhoon this year for Guangdong province in China. That sounds like a lot. Bringing winds up to 108 kilometers per hour, heavy rainfall to Taishan City. This wasn't just a minor storm, clearly.
It certainly wasn't. As a significant precaution, authorities evacuated approximately 60,000 people across southern China. That's a huge number. The Guangdong Meteorological Bureau issued a yellow alert, one of its higher warnings. All outdoor activities were suspended. Schools were closed for 120,000 students. Major disruptions also hit Hong Kong and Macau in China. Hundreds of flights canceled. Transportation, educational facilities all halted. Emergency services mobilized 3,300 personnel in Taishan alone. And evacuations even extended to workers on offshore wind platforms and fish farms out in Yangyang. It's just another stark reminder of the increasing intensity, potentially, of extreme weather events globally, and the critical importance of large-scale emergency preparedness, of community vigilance.
All right, let's round things out today with some cultural and sports highlights, celebrating moments of memory and looking at some modern shifts happening there too. First, a moment to remember a true musical legend.
Yes. Sadly, Rick Davies, the renowned singer and co-writer of the celebrated British rock band Supertramp, has passed away at the age of 81. Davies was absolutely instrumental in shaping that distinctive Supertramp sound. He co-wrote so many well-known tracks like Bloody Well Right and Goodbye Stranger. The band achieved enormous popularity back in the 1970s and 1980s, with iconic albums like Crime of the Century and Breakfast in America, known for their unique blend of progressive rock, pop, memorable melodies, and really poignant lyrics.
A moment indeed to remember a musical icon. His contributions left such a lasting impact on classic rock music, really shaped the sonic landscape for a whole generation. Those songs definitely still hold up today. Great band.
And shifting to the world of sports, we witnessed another display of utter dominance from a young tennis superstar.
Carlos Alcaraz. He just continues his incredible run, doesn't he? Delivered this masterful performance in the U.S. Open final against Jannik Sinner, defeated him pretty decisively, 6-4, 6-3, 6-2. That's his 6th Grand Slam title already, and he's only 22. Chuckle. It really makes my own accomplishments feel very small by comparison.
Chuckle. Well, he is an exceptional talent, no doubt. This victory absolutely solidifies Alcaraz's status as one of the very top players in contemporary tennis. Being the youngest to reach such milestones is remarkable. The match itself captivated tennis fans worldwide, and it highlighted this growing rivalry between these two young stars, Alcaraz and Sinner. They're widely seen as the future of men's tennis, promising some really exciting matches for years to come.
It's genuinely exciting to celebrate the dominance of a young superstar like that and witness the emergence of this new era in men's tennis. He just makes it look so effortless sometimes.
And finally, in the media landscape around sports, we saw what could be a truly transformative moment, indicating a major shift in how we all consume live sports.
You're talking about YouTube, aren't you? Their first ever exclusive National Football League NFL broadcast in the U.S. I heard it was a massive success, viewer-wise.
It was an astonishing turnout, yeah. YouTube officially made its mark in live sports broadcasting. Over 17.3 million viewers tuned in for that Kansas City Chiefs versus Los Angeles Chargers game. This unprecedented viewership really marks a transformative moment in sports media, underscoring the growing reach of platforms like YouTube and the immense potential for digital platforms to completely reshape traditional sports broadcasting as we know it. This shift really reflects those broader trends in media consumption, right? As audiences increasingly move away from traditional cable TV towards digital streaming options, YouTube's investment in streaming infrastructure and content, alongside parent company Google's technological prowess, it positions them as a serious competitor to established sports networks.
This really feels like the future of how we watch live sports, doesn't it? Illustrates this major shift in media, in entertainment, and the undeniable power of digital platforms to capture these massive engaged audiences. Traditional TV networks definitely have to adapt, and probably fast. Hashtag, tag, outro. So after all that, what does this all mean for you? We've just navigated a truly incredible landscape today, haven't we? From the scientific marvels of brain regeneration and discovering exoplutos, all the way to the high-stakes world of global geopolitics, economic shifts, and some profound societal challenges. Today, hopefully, you've gained some crucial insights into the interconnectedness of our world, how a global tech partnership in Germany can reshape urban transport everywhere, how medical breakthroughs might redefine our very understanding of diseases like heart attacks, how shifting geopolitical alliances directly ripple through global markets and energy prices. We've tried to give you the essential nuggets of knowledge, those aha moments, and hopefully a balanced view of the most important stories shaping our lives. This deep dive wasn't just about reciting news headlines. It was about trying to understand the fundamental forces at play, the diverse perspectives involved, and what it all signifies for humanity's journey forward.
And as we wrap up, think about this. We continue to uncover things like exoplutos out in the cosmos while simultaneously grappling with incredibly complex human rights crises right here on Earth. What unexpected scientific discovery or maybe political development do you think will be the next thing to fundamentally challenge our understanding of what it means to be a global citizen? And perhaps more importantly, how prepared are we really as a planet to adapt when it happens?